Don't let somebody else's marriage stop you from finding true love. Take him anyway. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I am Rafael and I am here to review season 3, episode 2 of The Real Housewives Taking Somebody Else's Husband, Ultimate Girls Trip Thailand. We start the episode off the following morning on day 2 of the trip. Pepsi, the concierge, he's going around to everybody's room asking them what they want for breakfast. He goes to Porsha's room. Porsha, she tells him,
I want an omelet with jalapeno and tomato and ketchup and maybe french fries.
Pepsi, he tries to be sneaky with it by telling Porsha, oh, you sure you want an omelet with jalapeno or an omelet with Pepsi? You know, get it because that's his name? Porsha, she was just like,
No, stop it. I want my omelet with jalapeno, not Pepsi. You tried it.
and they both laughed it off. And, you know, I'll give Pepsi 2 points for trying to be smooth. But at the same time, you know Porsha was not joking. She was probably thinking, he's about to cost me all my millions in my marriage with Simon. And you know Simon was probably at home watching this episode like, Porsha, can you come in the room real quick? What was that joke? He said jalapeno or Pepsi? What does that mean? But then we see Leah outside. She's going to do a prayer with the spirits. She's asking them if they could put her on the next season of The Real Housewives of New York. The spirits tell her no, so she sits down to have her breakfast. It's Leah Day, so her activity that she's planned is they're going to be exploring the elephants. They're going to go meet up with them for a healing journey, and she says that hopefully the elephants can make her and Heather come closer, you know, because they had a rocky start the first episode. And I'm like, how are the elephants gonna make you and Heather closer? And you know that the elephants are listening to this like, now why am I in it? I didn't even do anything. This is between both of you. But Leah, she also lets us know that she's also on her period. And I've heard horror stories that it's so painful. It makes you emotional. You want to cry and everything. So I do feel for her. I feel for her a little bit because then she's on some other BS later on in the episode, in the 3rd episode. But we'll get there. Back inside, we see Alexia and Marisol. They're getting up. Marisol, she has a stomach ache. But what is her remedy to that? To get alcohol. And Marisol, I really do like Marisol. But it's very concerning how she's just drinking 24/7. Like, I like her and I don't want her to go down like a, you know, scary path or anything. Like, she really needs to get that together. And she says in her confessional, oh, well, I'm a happy drunk. You know, nobody has told me that I have a problem. So until somebody tells me that, I'm not really gonna care. And I'm like, Alexia, she's your best friend. You don't see that like as concerning? I mean, again, like I said, I know it's her brand, it's her thing, but it's just like, put the drink down, like your stomach hurts. But everybody else is having breakfast at the table, and Heather in the confessional, she says, after a rough start on this trip with everybody piling up on me, I'm gonna try not to piss too many people off moving forward. And there she goes again, trying to be a people pleaser. Like, Heather, don't you get tired of being a doormat? Like, we already seen enough of that season 1 to 3 on your show with Jen Shah. Like, we don't need to see it on this trip and moving forward on Salt Lake City. Like, enough is enough. The other issue with her is that she's also coming off as a fan of everyone on the cast. And I get it because we're all fascinated by all the housewives. But Heather, you're one of them now too. Let's stop acting like a groupie. But at the same time, I understand that her and Whitney, they're still freshly new. So I'm pretty sure that they were fans of everyone prior to having their own show. But at the same time, it's backfiring on Heather because she can't really say or do what she really wants because she wants to be on their good side. So then Candace shows up and she tells everyone that she's going to be performing her #1 Billboard song, Drive Back, later tonight with a group that refers to themselves as Ladyboys. Ladyboy in Thailand is another definition for a third gender. So then Porsha shows up, and Porsha, she looks so pretty in that leopard bodysuit that she had on, and you could tell that there's some type of tension between both of them, or at least tension between Candace towards Porsha from what happened the night before. Then we get a little deeper between their history because in the confessional, Candace lets us know that on season 5 of her show, when the whole situation went down between her and Monique, we're just never gonna stop talking about this, huh? But when that went down, Porsha, she took Monique's side. She was online saying that the only reason why Candace was trying to sue Monique in the first place was to pay for her mom's house. I don't think that that's the reason why, Porsha. But okay, so that's why Candace is kind of looking at Porsha a little funny, like, you're taking my enemy's side. So, I mean, I get it. I understand because, of course, how can you really be buddy-buddy with somebody who's friends with somebody that you obviously dislike, I guess, right? I don't know. I guess it could be petty. We get the activity on the go, so everyone gets in the vans. In one van, we have Marisol, Candace, Leah, and Alexia. Alexia and Leah, they're discussing their time on the show. Alexia is telling her that Marisol is the funny one on their show. Alexia is the the one that puts her whole entire life on display on the show. Leah, she wants to know a little history between Alexia and her ex-husband who passed away. Herman, he had an affair on Alexia with another man, so Leah wanted to know what happened with that. Alexia lets us know that she found out because at Herman's funeral, his lover was also in attendance. And can you believe that? Like, these side pieces are getting way too comfortable. Like, so bold of him to do that, but he was there, and supposedly, allegedly, he told Adriana, who's another cast member on her show, that he passed away because when they were messing around, something happened, and I think he was basically alluding to a heart attack, and that's how he passed away. Does Alexia believe that? No, she feels that Adriana just said that because she likes the shock value, and she's just a friend of the show, so she needed something to stay on the show, so why not pick at Alexia? But honestly, I feel like Alexia, she knew about everything that was going on with Herman behind her back for years, but since he had money and he was willing to give her the money, she was kind of okay with keeping her mouth shut and just kind of playing wife and playing pretend. Like, she knew, allegedly. They finally get to the elephants and they're greeted by 2 tour guides who tell them what to do and what not to do. So as they're getting in the mud, they're getting closer to the elephants. Some of them want to touch them, some of them don't. As they're approaching them, all of a sudden, one of the elephants actually sneezes, but they actually sneeze in Whitney's mouth. That is nasty. And Whitney's just looking at Giselle like, Giselle, the elephant just sneezed in my mouth. Look, The elephant probably saw season 3 of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and he probably wasn't a fan of you, Whitney. That's probably why. And then Giselle starts rubbing on one of the elephants, making some strange noises. Candace in the confessional, she says, oh, if she's making these kind of noises here, I can only imagine what kind of noises she makes in the bedroom. Because Giselle, she's rubbing on the elephant. You're thinking she's gonna be like, oh, who's a cute baby? You're so cute, you're so adorable. No, she was just like, hee. I'm like, what is that? She sounded like a dolphin. I'm like, Giselle, stop. And you know that the elephant was probably looking at Giselle like, wait a minute, who's touching me? It's Giselle from The Real Housewives of Potomac. Go get the other elephants. Go, 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 quickly. But don't get the elephants who are in a relationship because she might try to break them up. Go, 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 quickly. Oh my goodness, look what she is wearing. Oh, hideous. Get off me. Why are you touching me? My favorite housewife from your show is Karen Huger. Like, stop touching me. Get some mud. Fling it at her really quickly. Porsha picks up a chunk of mud and she flings it at Giselle's butt. Giselle, she turns around like, wait, where did that come from? Porsha, she's pretending to play dumb, and I do use the word pretending very loosely. And she says,
honestly, I don't know where that came from, Giselle. I think the elephant was the one that threw it at you.
Next thing you know, the elephant starts pooping and everybody freaks out. Everybody started running away from them. Giselle, she was running away as if Monique and her binder were coming after her. Heather, she's the only one that's still sitting there in the mud with the poop in it. And she was just rubbing on the elephant like, well, I love elephants, but I don't want to upset PETA. And I'm like, another person that she doesn't want to upset, like, Heather, come on now. So they all wash off. I believe Candace and Porsha, they're running around throwing mud at each other. I believe the 2 tour guys were like, excuse me? Excuse me, hey, excuse me, you, excuse me? But nobody was listening. Eventually they showered off and then they sat down to, I believe, drink. And they had a Hennessey bottle and absolutely not. I don't do dark liquor. It's way too strong, especially Jack Daniels. You know, I'm a classy girl. I like the fruity drinks. But they're trying to open it. They're like, does anybody have a corkscrew or anything? And then Porsha, she grabs the Hennessey bottle and she tells them,
you guys are acting real brand new. We don't need a corkscrew. I have my mouth to open it.
And as soon as she said that, I was very curious. How was she going to do that? Next thing you know, she actually puts her mouth on the actual bottle. She proceeds to try to twist it open and everybody's just looking at her like, what is going on? I think somebody said, oh, is that how she got Simon? But then she said, I'm just kidding. You see, Porsha, you probably could have opened it with your mouth if you used the spit and hand technique, like, and then, do all of that. Maybe you could have gotten it open, but she was just like, oh, no, I'm just joking, blah, blah, blah. Where's the corkscrew? Leah, she was just like, I'm so glad that we could talk about stuff like this and joke around, blah, 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 because on my show, everybody's a prude, specifically Ramona. Ramona swears that she's classy, but she's not. She doesn't ever want to talk about anything, and she shuts everything down. And then I believe Leah was just like, oh, let's go around and, get give us your good and your bad experience on being on your show. Candace, she starts off by saying that she's proud to be on the second Black Housewives show. You know, Atlanta's the first one and then Potomac's the second, which honestly, I feel like they should have a third one and it should be in New Orleans or Houston, one or the other, or both. And then the negative is social media. That social media, people are always coming at her, this, that, and the third. And then Giselle, again, they go back and forth with, well, you started, it's because of your mouth, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's funny that she says this now, and then Giselle, she contradicts herself later on in the confessional. But we'll get to that. So then we move over to Whitney. Whitney, she said,
well, I'm just really glad that I was chosen for my show because I thought I wasn't good enough. But, you know, it's nice to feel like, you know, like I'm a bad bitch now.
And I'm like, oh, a what? I'm like, who lied to you and said that you were that? But okay, I mean, yeah, from the season 1 all the way to now, yeah, Whitney's a whole different person. Is that a good thing? We'll never know. So then we head over to Porsha. Porsha, she gets emotional about one season when she gave birth to her daughter, how she was going through postpartum depression, and she really didn't feel like filming the show anymore because, again, she was going through all these emotions. She didn't want cameras in her face, but the producer, I believe the producer's name was Joy, they told Porsha, it's okay, we're just gonna film whatever you want, whatever you say. You don't even have to say anything. Just, you know, give us your life. And then Porsha, she said something and she said, I like when the housewives give us their raw life, like their raw storyline. And I'm looking at Giselle like, where's the rawness there? You know, Giselle, as soon as she said that, Giselle was just like, anyway, let me look inside my purse. You know, because the same could be applied to Robin, like your podcast, you know, the whole situation with Juan. Alexia jumps in to give a toast to Marisol because she's proud that after 10 years of her show being put on pause, they came back and better than ever. Heather, she was bothered by this in the confessional. Oh, why are you telling us this? Like, nobody's asking for this. Nobody's talking to you about this. And I'm like, Heather, if I was you, I would calm it down because your show specifically is just 2 seconds away from being canceled. So cut it out. At least they rebooted and they came back really strong. And if anything, the Real Housewives of Miami, they're like the best housewives overall right now. Like, they're bringing the fashion, they have money, they actually have real friendships and storylines and affairs. Like all the other housewives, they're all struggling. Miami's actually doing it correctly. Then we move over to Marisol, and between her and Porsha's story, it was very sad and heartbreaking. They were both crying. Marisol, she starts crying because her positive and negative is her mom. Her mom, she wanted to get a facelift at some point, but she couldn't get anesthesia because of a heart condition, so she had to get fillers, which ended up deforming her face, and she was ashamed of that. She was ashamed of seeing her mom on camera because she knew that was gonna open a floodgate of judgment, of critique from the audience, the cast members. So she was ashamed. She admitted that she was ashamed, but once she saw her mom in front of the cameras and how fun she was having with it and everything, because if you do watch The Real Housewives of Miami, when her mom was on, Mama Elsa, she loved being in front of the cameras. Like, she could have had a mojito herself. Like, she was just all about the spotlight. Every time she was on camera, it was about her. And at some points, Marisol, she was kind of competing with her. So then we move over to Leah. Leah, she starts crying right away. And I'm like, wait, what happened? Candace, she's also crying too because of Porsha's story. And Leah, her story, she starts explaining that the last season that she was on her show, her grandmother was about to pass away, and she wanted one of the cast members or production to tell her, like, Leah, you could go, you should go, you're allowed to go. But because nobody told her that, she stayed, and she held some type of resentment towards the cast and production because she couldn't be there for her grandmother in her last moments of life. And, you know, I don't want to be insensitive or anything because I do feel for Leah and her grandmother passing away, but Leah, you mean to tell me that production is gonna hold you down? Like, they're physically gonna grab you or something and tell you, like, no, you can't go. You're gonna lose your Apple, your paycheck, whatever. Like, you can't go to see your grandmother who's passing away, and this might be the last time you see her. Like, and then what's her name? The cast members too. Like, first of all, who's Ramona? Like, Ramona, Dorinda, none of them have any power over you. You could have easily just left. And the way I see this is I feel like she's trying to blame production for her own misdoings, because I feel like she's trying to, you know, just basically cover up her ass. Like, oh, I finally went to go see my grandmother, but it was too late. But it was really production. It was their fault and not my own. And it's just like, no, just own it. It was your fault and it happened and it was very unfortunate. So everybody else started giving their opinions in the confessional. Giselle was just like, wait, what? So you mean to tell me that production stopped you? Candace was like, yeah, no, that's not happening. Whitney, she says, we both have the same company, like the same production company. They wouldn't tell us to not go. And I wonder how production feels about this because I'm pretty sure now Leah, there's just no chance that she's gonna get her apple back in the future for her show. So they all head back to the villa, and Candace, she's crying in the van to everybody because her and her husband Chris, they got into a huge fight right before she came out to Thailand. And I think that she's probably talking about the fight between her and Chris in the car that we saw this past season on Potomac. So they all get back to the villa. Pepsi's greeting them at the door. Porsha, she whispers to him,
Pepsi, do you think that you could give me some KFC?
and I'm like, Porsha, not KFC, but you know what? I'm not even mad at her. So Pepsi was just like, yeah, anything for you. So he goes to go get it. They all start getting ready for Candace's performance, and Heather, she goes to do Whitney's hair. And it's just like the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City season 3.5 with both of them, because they're talking about the same issues that they were talking about all season long and at the reunion. And again, we already know how this plays out. They're not in the best place. So as she's doing Whitney's hair, Whitney, she's telling Heather,
Heather, you really hurt my feelings and everything because I was trying to help, all season. And I don't know, I just feel like, we're really not friends anymore. And it hurts my feelings, it really hurts my feelings a lot because I have a lot of feelings for you. And I don't know, it's a lot.
Heather, she was just like, well, honestly, you chose this show over me. And they were kind of breaking the fourth wall, honestly, because Heather was just like, she chose this show for me. Like, she threw me underneath the bus for a storyline because she wanted to cause conflict. She wanted ratings on this show, and yeah, she put the show over me. Whitney, she's telling Heather, like, no, you let the show and the fame get to your head. And honestly, I feel like there's a truth to both of them because honestly, like I said before at the beginning, they're both big fans of the Housewives shows, and Whitney, she wants to be accepted by Lisa Barlow, so what is she gonna do? She wants to cause conflict, so she's gonna use her cousin and throw her underneath the bus in order to be on Lisa's good side. Heather's in her villain era right now. Because she is enemy number one on Salt Lake City, and her image is just slowly like falling apart. Porsha actually got her KFC, so after that they finally get in the van to head out to this restaurant. Her and Whitney have the best dress. In the van, Leah is talking to Marisol about her being on a dating app. She's throwing a tantrum because she wants men to put their penis size in their profile on the dating app. Why? Because Leah doesn't want to go through wasting time getting to know the guy, and then when she meets them in person and dating and everything, she finds out that they have a micro penis, as she says. Marisol, she's looking at her like, ¿qué? She is so lost. She was like a micro penis. What? Whitney, she's in the back like,
Leah, can you zoom in on the picture? I want to see his face. Leah, just zoom in on the picture. I just want to see his face.
But Leah is ignoring her. She's just throwing a tantrum. She was just like, I want a big penis. I want a big one. Like, either it has to be 8 inches or more. Like, I'm not taking 2. I'm sorry. It needs to be this big and this, like, the wide needs to be like this. Like, it needs to be like this big. Like, she's throwing a full-on tantrum. And I'm like, I mean, okay, yeah, in a perfect world, Leah, maybe they'll put it in their profile. But even so, men are going to lie about that regardless, Leah. They already lie in their profiles now. I've seen some profiles that they seem like the nicest person in the world. Like, oh, I love my mom. I have a nice dog. I have a good paying job. I have 3 goldfish. I like long walks in the park. And then you get to know them, and then you meet them in person, and what? Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. It starts looking like 6 flags. Like they're the most toxic person in the world. So, I mean, you can only go but just so much with that. But eventually they get to this restaurant. They're sitting down. Candace, she's the host. So she wants to give everybody nicknames, starting with her. She calls herself Petty LaBelle, which is a play on Patti LaBelle. She starts off with Giselle. Giselle, you're going to be... Let's see, since Karen says this all the time that you need a man, and everybody else on Twitter, I think I'm going to call you Shanita Man. Which is the play on she needs a man. And, Giselle, she was just laughing it off, blah, blah, blah. She didn't really take it too personal. But in the confessional, they told Giselle, do you like your nickname? Giselle was just like, no, I really don't. But if I was to nickname Candace, I would call her, what did she say? Trash can mouth Candace, mama drama Candace. That's the one that took me out. But honestly, for Giselle, there could be a couple of nicknames for her. But, we got Shanita Man, Shanita Stylist, as Candace said. She said Dummy Moore. Dummy Moore, that was a good one. But she could also go for Delusional. That'd be a nice one. Shanita Storyline. Shanita Get Off the Show. Shanita Stop Being the First Chair at the Reunion. Like the possibilities are endless. So then she goes over to Marisol. Marisol is gonna be Crystal Ball because of her mom. I believe she gave Whitney and Heather really good ones. Not Snow White, Snow Right and Snow Wrong. Even though both of them are technically Snow Wrong. But okay, so then we move over to Leah is Judaism because she turned into Judaism, I guess. And then I believe we go to Porsha. This is where things get interesting because she was just like, let's see, since Giselle is, Shanita, man, and you, the way you got with your husband, Simon, is very questionable. We're going to call you Shateka, man. And I'm like, ooh. Which is a play on she'll take your man. And I'm like, Candace, you're playing with fire. Porsha, she was just like,
I didn't take anybody's man. He was already free. Like, I didn't take him anything. I didn't take anybody's man.
And I'm like, okay, I guess that's the story we'll stick to for now. But her and Giselle, they were obviously bothered by it in the confessional. They were both playing around. And it's interesting because Porsha, is it just me? But Porsha makes Giselle likable on the show. I think it's because everybody loves Porsha, so they're like looking at Giselle like she's part of her, but they're not. But their dynamic is very interesting to watch. They all sit down at the dinner table and Candace brings up how sometimes the show has a negative effect on relationships and marriages. Giselle in her confessional, she says that, yeah, being in the public eye, with public scrutiny, people have judgments. They're going to talk about your marriages. And sometimes your husband or even the wife, I guess, they can get away with cheating behind each other's back because, of course, somebody's always watching. Michael Darby. I'm like, no, Giselle, why did you have to bring up that zombie? Like, we were doing just fine without him and Ashley, like, for once. But eventually, Candace, this is where she turns the boat over to Porsha. So, Porsha, the streets are talking about you and Simon, that you supposedly took a man, like you supposedly took him away from the woman, right? And just before we get into this conversation, I don't believe in somebody taking somebody's man, woman, or whatever. I just don't believe that. If somebody wants to leave their relationship or their marriage or whatever, they're going to leave willingly. It's not going to be because, so-and-so forced me out of my marriage. I don't believe in that. So we could stop all of that. Now, did she do something wrong in this whole situation? Let's get into it because, Porsha, she tries to clear it up and, I'm following her. I'm like, okay, what? She starts off by saying,
well, first of all, they were trying to introduce a new housewife onto the Real Housewives of Atlanta. So when I went to go meet her, I met Simon and I knew that I knew him from somewhere, but I couldn't remember.
And I'm assuming that she knew Simon before because I'm assuming that Simon worked with Dennis at one point in the past. I forgot how their history was. So she went over and if we all remember, we saw it in the flashback, Fallon invited Tanya. Remember Tanya? Where is Tanya? She fucked Bolo and then we never saw her again. Allegedly she did. But she was with Tanya. She went over to Fallon's house. They were in the pool. Like they were having a fun time. And Simon, he was being creepy and just watching them. But obviously he was probably looking at his new wife. But, I just, the whole situation was just a mess. But because of that, she met him there. And then Fallon and Simon, they broke it off. They were about to get a divorce. So Porsha, being the good person she is, she slid into his DMs just to check up on him. That's it. Just to say, oh, how are you? What's going on? Do you want one of Dennis's hot dogs? Like, are you doing okay? Simon was just like, oh, well, yeah, but, let's exchange numbers. Porsha, she didn't want to give him his number because she's in the public eye, so it's going to be looking wrong. So she said, you need to sign off on your divorce papers first before we get to cheating. But supposedly Simon did. This is all allegedly, by the way, so Simon, he did, but eventually the paper never got signed officially. It was just at the judge's table, and that was that. Giselle in her confessional, she cleared it up a little bit better by saying Fallon was with Simon, but after they broke it off, Fallon magically got pregnant with the pool boy, which is, what's his name? Jalen, something like that, like a couple of months later. So maybe Fallon was cheating on Simon as well. Simon and Porsha, were they seeing each other while he was with Fallon? Possibly, but Porsha, she didn't want to, discuss Fallon out of respect. But I just, in my opinion, and I love Porsha. I love Porsha to death. But, to me, that whole situation, that's just trash. Like, it's terrible what she did. She didn't take anybody's man. And even if Fallon and Simon were separated or whatever, they were divorced, I personally feel like it's wrong. Like, It's kind of like the girl code. This lady let you into her house, into Simon's house. You know, you were in the pool with her, and yeah, even if this whole thing was for TV and stuff, like a forced friendship, like it still looks wrong to me. Like, it's terrible. Like, you were in this woman's face, you were having fun with her, you were in the pool with her, and then 2 seconds later, you're engaged to Simon. Like a whole month later, like they're engaged. And it's just like, how does that happen? You know, and I get it that everybody's relationship is different, you know, things spark differently, but it's just like, what do y'all think? Do y'all think what Porsha did with the whole Simon situation is wrong? Do you think it's okay? I mean, it's whatever. But then again, I'm no angel either, because then next thing you know, in the confessional, Heather, she was just like, would I take a man? Probably. She was just like, why not? I mean, if the man loves me more than he loves the person that he's with, why not? And I'm like, wow, Heather, she really is in her villain era. And I believe Whitney said,
yeah, I have taken somebody's man before.
Marisol in the confessional, Marisol is hilarious. She said, I mean, did you see the big rock on Portia's finger? I will take him too. And me, you know, I have been somebody's mistress, unfortunately, at one point. This was many years ago. And you know, we'll talk about that one day in the future. But yeah, I was somebody's mistress, but I didn't take anybody's man. You know, he left her. You know, we'll discuss that sometime in the future, but that was that. And then eventually Alexia started talking about her relationship and how she said if her current husband wanted to walk away from the show, that she would do it. You know, this is her third marriage. She doesn't need the show. And I'm like, you don't need the show, but I feel like Alexia, she likes the fame, she likes the attention, so I feel like it'll be hard for her to let go of the show, personally. Then Giselle was just like, wait, so first of all, I'm actually shocked that Giselle didn't jump in on the whole conversation with Porsha. She's been very respectful with Porsha and the whole Simon situation. But that's shocking because typically Giselle's the first one in line. Like, she has her ticket, her VIP pass, her press pass right then and there to talk about somebody else's marriage. So I'm shocked that she doesn't try anything with Porsha because she probably knows better. But she tells Alexia, isn't there something like with a gay husband or something like that? Alexia, she starts talking about, you know, Herman and everything. She starts discussing that and breaking it down to Giselle and everybody else at the table who doesn't know. Yeah, we could have watched the show, but you have the person right in front of you who went through it. So why not get the scoop from her and her mouth only? So then Leah, I said it in my first review to this season, like, why do people find her annoying? Now I see why. She's very disrespectful. And so Leah, she starts making these noises at the end of the table like, oh my God, like, I don't want a micro penis. I don't want to talk about Herman. Like, he's dead. Why are we discussing him? Like, I don't want to discuss this. Like, I already heard this. This is so boring. Like, God, so boring. I want to go back home. Where's Ramona? And I'm like, Leah, you're really bitching and moaning about what? Like, you were just discussing your micro penis issues on the van the entire ride here, and nobody else said you were mourning for that. They were all listening to you. Now, if somebody would have said to you, Leah, at the elephant activity, oh, I don't feel like listening to your grandma's story and what happened to her and what you're going through. Like, we're here on vacation. We're not here to cry and be sad. That's boring. Would that have been okay, Leah? Would that have been respectful? Because, I mean, it's basically the same thing. And Leah she really rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, I see why people don't want to give you your apple back for your show because, yeah, no, she's just very negative energy. You know, the whole cast is good except her. And on top of that, she's whining and complaining to Marisol, who's sitting right in front of her. And that's Alexia's best friend. Marisol, she was just like, wait, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean, bro? Like, no, like, Alexia, this girl right here, she's complaining about you. She's saying something about your story that it's boring. And honestly, I'm very shocked that Alexia has been very quiet so far. I mean, she hasn't gotten out of character or yelled or anything because typically on her show, she's a hot ass mess. She's in somebody's face. She's screaming and yelling and, you know, throwing low blows. Here, she's very, you know, just very calm and everything and very mellow. So I'm shocked that she didn't go off on Leah. Alexia was just like, oh, really? Okay, fine, I'll just stop talking about it. I'm like, wow, that's shocking because let's say if Leah was Adriana, it would have been a whole completely different story. Giselle, I was actually on her side for once. She said, really boring. This isn't boring. This is an interesting story. I asked. I want to know. Next thing you know, Leah, because Marisol starts saying, "Oh, you're disrespectful, you're rude, like, I can't believe you're saying that." Next thing you know, Leah takes a complete low blow at Marisol, and she said, Marisol, please stop. Like, stop. You're just mad and you're just cranky because your stomach hurts because you wake up and you drink alcohol right away. And I'm like, well, damn, Leah, so that's the type of game that we're playing on this season? Okay. Like, that is, I mean, I've said it before too, that I am concerned about Marisol and her drinking and everything, but it's just like Leah, like, just like I said for my first episode review, she would have been leaving Thailand tonight. Like, we would have packed up her stuff, thrown it over the balcony, put her mattress in the pool, just like the Bad Girls Club. Like, no, like, Leah, go home. Like, Leah thinks that this is the Real Housewives of New York. This ain't Phaedra. This is not Ramona. This is not Dorinda. This is not Luann you're messing with. This is a whole different cast of strong personalities, Leah. So cut it out. Like, you're not going to do that here. On top of that, she keeps saying, oh, somebody get drunk and do something fun already, because she's used to that behavior on her show. Because, of course, everybody over there, they all get drunk and they all start doing like stupid shit. So she wants the same thing to happen here. No. And on top of that, Leah, would it have been wrong if somebody told you, oh, why don't you drink and do something fun, since all you're doing is bitching and complaining? Like, you get drunk or whatever. Wouldn't you feel disrespected because on the first episode, you were offended by Heather's comments? So why would you throw that out to somebody else? So, Leah, you're like 10 points negative. Like, get Leah off the show. Like, oh my goodness. Is this how she is on her show? Again, I don't watch, but is this how she is? Because I see why people call her annoying. Oh my goodness. Like, they couldn't get anybody else from New York to come replace her. Like, but that was the episode. And like I said, moving forward, I saw the third episode. I don't feel bad for Leah and, you know, Giselle and Porsha coming at her already. So I'll tell you all that now. But let me know what you all thought about this episode down in the comments. Bye, everybody. Mwah.